I moved to North Dakota 1 year for work, ended up staying 3. I'm from Montana. I would drive back to Montana on my days off every couple weeks. I would get off super late and mostly would drive at night time. A large portion of the 3.5 hours drive are winding 2-lane road through pretty uninhabited land. I would see maybe 2 other cars. There was this specific stretch of narrow highway where there wasn't even any houses way off in the distance. The first incident I had was when I was driving back to North Dakota. It was always so very dark, darker than I ever remember any normal night being, and just for context, I'm open-minded about things but don't just believe everything I hear. Up until this point, I've never really been convinced of anything supernatural or paranormal or demonic. I've had some weird encounters throughout my life, but nothing like the series of events that followed this first night. As I was driving along minding my own business, heading back to North Dakota, I hit Highway 16, it's the halfway mark. There is a river next to the road, you follow it a short while. This occurred during the time when I'm driving alongside it. I notice movement out of my peripherals and look to the right where the river is. It's very dark out, but I can see the silver shimmer of the water. Only this time, hovering in the middle of the water is a super deep thick fog. It's moving, rolling towards the road. Okay, I guess that's normal enough. But this wasn't. It wasn't like a haze from moisture low hanging. This looked like a single huge thick cloud, a very isolated mass. I could see where it began and where it ended, like it had a shape, and was specific to one area, and it moved as a whole. By this time I'm thinking WTF, and am I seeing stuff? So I slow down a little to try to get a better look because it's so dark and the moonlight is the only thing giving it any illumination. My eyes are fixed on it and I'm not paying attention to the road in front of me. I'm almost to a hill where you round a corner and move away from the river and lose sight of the area I was looking at. I can see the sign warning you to slow down for the corner, reflecting off my headlights, and I look forward to get ready to navigate the turn. I slam on my brakes at 65 miles per hour hard. There's a massive hazy gray/white object in the middle of the road. I literally skid to a stop in the middle of this highway. I can't even explain the shape of what it was. It looked like a cloud, but it was tall, but all the details and edges were round. It was whatever was just on the river, the fog, whatever the heck it was. It was in front of me. I could see darkness around the edges of it, so I knew it wasn't just a normal fog that would encompass more than a single spot on the road. I thought I was going to have a panic attack. I just couldn't wrap my mind around what it was I was looking at. I tried to focus on it so I could rationalize whatever it was and why it looked like it did, and how it had moved directly in front of me. I sat there dumbfounded and terrified. I blinked, and it was just gone. That was just the start of things. The next time something happened, I was driving back to Montana, so opposite direction this time. I'm driving along listening to music, and I'm about to hit that same stretch of highway. I drive pretty fast, and I have made this drive so many times I could probably do it with my eyes closed. There's never any other cars. There are animals to look out for, but I'm a professional. Anyways, I'm coming to that corner I mentioned, and the moment I round the bend, I see the back of what looks like a person, a man. He has a really large walking stick, and he's on the shoulder of the road. His back looks to be hunched over like someone older. My headlights land on his back, and it looks like he's wearing a brown kind of cloak made of hide or animal leather of some kind. I'm going way too fast for this road in general, but now I see a human, so I slow way down so I can veer over and give him more space. It's like 3:30 a.m. I'm thinking it's so weird that there's a person walking on the highway this late. Not to mention, we were between 2 towns where the closest one was about 40 miles away. And there's 0 houses anywhere close. The profoundness of that thought didn't immediately cross my mind, but I obviously knew how strange it was to see someone walking, alone, in the dark. I'm going about 30 now to pass by him, and as I do, he turns to look at me, and all I see in his face are 2 dark red eyes. I couldn't make out any features. Nothing. I couldn't see a hand holding his walking stick or any anatomy. All I could see were his eyes. I convinced myself that I imagined that, and it was too dark and I was going too fast to have actually seen what I know I saw. I tried to shake it off, but it was already burned into my brain. 10 miles later, an animal I can only describe as a dog-like creature, but it was on 2 hind legs, who coincidentally had the same hunched posture, crosses the road in front of me. It stops for just a split second, long enough for me to focus on it, and it turns to make eye contact with me. We're looking at each other. I'm startled to see the very same deep red eyes. My heart drops. I'm getting ready to slam on my brakes so I don't hit this thing. I close my eyes for a split second, and when I open them, it is nowhere to be seen. I'm in full-blown panic mode. I make sure my doors are locked, all my windows are completely up. I turn my brights on and my light bar, and I drive as fast as freaking possible to get to the next town so I can be on the interstate. I don't know what it was I saw. I'm still questioning if any of it was real or if my eyes or brain were playing tricks on me, but the next time it came up might have convinced me. The third time. It was so dark. I was driving back to Montana, and my tire pressure light comes on, starts blinking, dinging. I'm like, shoot, I got a flat. Guess where I am? Right next to the river. I am trying my best to not be a wimp. I forgot to mention. This whole stretch of highway, there's no cell service. It's like a dead zone. So I pull off to the side of the road. I know how to change my own tire. I'm very capable, and I have every intention of doing it. But it's very dark and there's nothing around me. I sit there for a moment and try to see if maybe by the grace of God I have service and can call my insurance or AAA, because let's face it, I'm 5'4", 110 pounds in the middle of nowhere in the pitch-black night at like 2:30 a.m. I was afraid. I was scared to get out of my car and even look. So I grabbed a flashlight and rolled down my window, stuck myself halfway out and shined my light at my back and front tires, because I could feel the direction my car had been pulling. I shine it at the front, and it looks fine. Shine it at the back. It's flat. As I'm cursing at my luck, I see a shadow. A tall, thick, human-like shadow. It's quite a ways behind my car, running. Running towards me. I drop the flashlight, and I assume it breaks because it turns off. I freeze. It's silent, dead silent. Except, I can hear feet hitting pavement, it's so fast. I couldn't move. I swear I stared in the direction of the noise into the darkness for a solid minute until my brain finally starts working again and tells my body to move. I scramble back in the window, hit the lock button and roll up my window. My headlights are still on so I can see in front of me, and my taillights are the only light behind me. But there's no moon, and it's pitch black around me. I sit there for what seems like an eternity, peering into the darkness, straining to try to see anything. I couldn't see a thing. I decided to turn my car off and crack my window to see if I could hear anything. Worst decision ever. I cracked my window, and I could hear breathing. This was almost wet, heavy breathing, and it sounded like it wasn't but inches away from me. Like whatever it was had reached me, and they were crouching under my window. I rolled up my window in terror and went to start my car. And guess what? It wouldn't start. This car has never one time ever not started. Ever. I literally felt such dread I was almost convinced I was going to die there. I'm crying and trying over and over to start the car, and it's not even trying. I swear I see fog from breath on my passenger window and just trying to not look to my left, and boom. It starts. I drove 30 miles on a completely flat tire. Destroyed my rim and threw off the entire alignment on my car permanently. There was no freaking way I was getting out of that car to change that tire. Here is a kicker. I have a friend who lived in the same place in North Dakota for work a few years prior to me moving. He was also from Montana and had made the same drive a million times like I had. One night, we were talking about commuting back and forth, and I had brought up Highway 16 and how I hated that portion of the drive. Before I can even tell him a vague why, he tells me, "I've seen some things on that highway. I don't know what the hell it was, and I can't really explain it and don't care to, but there's something wrong with that area." At this point I'm feeling that same ominous feeling because I'm terrified but relieved that I wasn't the only one who experienced something weird. He asked me what it was that perturbed me so much about the area, so told him my story. I felt like he would understand since he and I had the same kind lifestyle at the time with work and going home, so I told him all of it. He sat there silent until I finished. The look on his face made it seem like his world just ended. Not saying a word, he stood up and walked out of the room. I got up and followed him. I kept asking him what was wrong, but he didn't respond. We're outside and he goes out to his pickup. He doesn't start it. He digs through his glove box and pulls out this notebook. Mind you, this was the first time I said anything about my experiences or that I ever had any. I was too confused, scared, and embarrassed to tell anyone about it. No one knew anything. I didn't want to give whatever was power by talking about it or letting it keep infecting my mind and my thoughts. So he comes back in. He hands me the notebook and flips through a few pages while I'm holding it. He gets to a certain page and tells me to read it. I start reading. Someone explained to me why my friend, who used to make the same drive at night, is writing about a demonic old man walking on the shoulder of the road who, 10 miles down, changed into something completely different. He described it as a big black shadow dog, but he knew it was the man because it had the same red eyes. He has this written down in a notebook from 2 years prior. I'm crying. I'm literally sobbing. There's no possible way that what I was reading and what he had just heard me tell him could have been collaborated. How could I even act like none of it was real? Whatever it was, whatever that thing is, has to be real. How could the same thing have happened to both of us?